So let's do introductions. I'll go all the way around the room and then do the presentations that I know several people want to do. So I'm Tracy Prince.
Cal Toth.
Roger Leishman.
Eric Simon.
Sherry Salomon.
Andy Rome.
Front row. Okay.
Steve Salomon.
Okay. Here. Go ahead.
Clark Worth. Ken Bucket. Aaron Savon. Carl Lyle.
Liz Cooksey. Shelley Miller.
Clay Thompson.
Mary Patch. Deanna Neal.
David Nix.
Mark Bell.
Last.
And Sandy Blake.
All right, and so I know we have presentations from TriMet and the MAC and the Timbers. Does anyone else, before those folks get going, does anyone else have an announcement you would want to make, or concern, or comment?
I'm wondering if the mics are working. It may be that there's just so much going on in the next room, but and I know I can probably.
No, I'll just speak into the mic a little bit more. There we go. Okay, any other announcements? Sherry?
That Carl has left the board.
Yes, we received a notification that Carl Rear, our beloved board member who's done so much work for the neighborhood, especially in getting Goose Hollow Days started, is just feeling overwhelmed with other commitments and has stepped off. It's a great loss, but he will still stay connected.
I'd like to make a move that I can buy a card and we all sign it to send just a thank you card.
I don't think we need a motion for that, but we will all be happy to sign, yes.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
His work is incredibly appreciated and resonates today. Okay, so let's hear, I know the MAC has a very brief announcement. If you guys want to, I think yours is the briefest, so if you want to do yours. Yes, please.
Yeah, that'll be recorded for you, as promised.
Hello, I'm Mary Fetch with the MAC, and I'll kick it off. So Easter Sunday, a couple Sundays ago, we had planned a Easter egg roll event for kids in Block 7. And just before, and we had it cleaned up professionally and safely so that they could pick up needles and such. And as we got closer to the event, there was more that kind of paraphernalia around. So we decided we had to, for the safety of the kids, move the event. So we just kind of wanted to put, provide some information about what's going on out there. And you may share some thoughts like this as well. Deanne, do you want to add anything?
Well, just really quickly, can you hear me? Do I need to say
because this is videotaped.
Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Deanna O'Neill, and I am on the Board of Trustees for the MAC. And Mary and I had just had this conversation, and the board had just wanted to be sure that we are good neighbors with all of you in Goose Hollow, to make sure that you were aware of what had happened on Block 7 over Easter weekend, and just to make sure that all of us try and work together to make that area the safest that we possibly could. For all of you, for the kids, and especially like a beautiful day like today with the weather being so nice and going into summer, that we just want to be sure that you are all aware of that and we can figure out a way to all work together to make that area a safer place for all of us. We don't want anybody to get hurt. We don't want there to be any kind of liability issues or anything like that. And so just wanted to bring that to all of your attention so that we can figure out what the next step is going to be to try and keep that safe.
And this is an issue throughout the neighborhood. We have had complaints from Luke Gilmer, who's closer to I-405, that he picks up one of those painter's buckets of needles a week around his house. I sent an email to Multnomah County Commissioner Sharon Mirren, who and told her, Outside In and other Multnomah County funded organizations are working very hard to send out a lot of clean needles out to the drug addicts, but they're not working so hard on in my opinion, on the exchange of those needles. So if the same number of needles aren't coming in, it just means they're literally pumping 3 million needles out into communities across all of Portland. So this isn't just a Goose Hollow issue. It's throughout all of the neighborhoods. And I do think they need to do a better job of collecting exchanging the needles. I do believe that's a reasonable program and that people should be safe. But we should also think about the end product as it enters into our neighborhood. So I'd love to invite Multnomah County Commissioner Sharon Mirren to come to our meeting and talk about what they're doing to address that issue.
Well, it was just announced, I think today or yesterday, that for needle exchanges, they're now going to be at every fire department. And that'll be going into effect, I believe, immediately, in a slow-by-slow process.
Doesn't help us in Goose Hollow.
What that effectively means is needles are given out at those locations. It doesn't necessarily mean needles are coming into those locations.
That is where right now there's just 1 or 2 needle drop-offs in the city. This is going to increase it however many fire stations there are, 25 or 37 or something along those lines. So this is... So this is really the first step in the process. The city is very well aware that they have a major problem on their hands. And, whether it's the squeaky wheel gets the grease, as you had mentioned, this is endemic all over the city.
Back to the local issue, though. I clean up the stairs and the sidewalk across the street from my house, which happens to be across the street from Block 7, and on pretty much a weekly basis. The litter there gets worse when the weather gets better, and it's a cyclic thing. That's not where I see needles, though. And it would be really helpful if we, who are the immediate neighbors, knew where these things are happening, and we may be able to take some steps, if only to alert security that, hey, there's some activity on XYZ corner that you might want to pay attention to.
So thank you for what you guys are doing to keep the neighborhood clean and safe. We really appreciate that. And I know it's an ongoing battle, but thank you.
And we did keep the Easter egg hunt, just to worry about the kids. We just moved the location.
My son was there.
We had a great time.
It was great. But I think it's his last year. He's a little too big. TriMet.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you can raise that too if you want.
There we go. That's better. Okay, thank you for letting us giving us a few minutes to talk about a couple of construction projects that are going to be coming to the Goose Hollow neighborhood here at the end of April and in May. So first of all, I just want to introduce myself again. I'm Clay Thompson. I do outreach for TriMet. And with me tonight is Shelley Miller in the place of Jeff Owen. She'll be talking about the new bike and ride that is going to be starting construction next week. So in addition to what she's handing out there, she's giving you the Goose Hollow bike and ride information. Also another sheet that actually describes what the construction projects will look like on Southwest 18th Avenue. And then also she'll hand out one of these brochures as well that describes the service disruption that is associated with the construction on 18th. So first of all, Shelley's going to come up and she's going to talk about the bike and ride after I'm finished talking about the construction project. So what we're going to be doing is starting April 30th, we're going to be doing some road closures. And specifically that means that between April 30th and May 18th, possibly as late as May 18th, we're going to have the northbound lanes of Southwest 18th closed to vehicle traffic between Taylor and Morrison. Between Salmon and Taylor, there'll be local access in those northbound lanes. And so that also means that the left turn lane out here on Salmon that gets you onto 18th will also be closed, simply because you can only go a block before you get to Taylor. So those are things going to be happening starting April 30th. We may not have to go through May 18th on that. It may be as soon as May 12th when we can actually open the roads again. We can put built in a little bit of cushion there because previous projects sometimes have gone long in terms of the actual length of construction, what we found underneath the street. So since we haven't been in the street for quite a while, we're not sure what's down there. So we're giving ourselves a little extra time. And so during that time, from May 6th to May 11th, and that's what this brochure is about, the MAX service between downtown, the library, and Galleria stations and Goose Hollow will be disrupted, and we'll run shuttle buses in between them. And so that means that the Kings Hill Salmon Street station out here will be closed during that time, and also the two platforms that compose the Providence Park stations will also be closed. This brochure has been mailed to all the residents around here within probably about a quarter-mile range of this location. And then also they will be getting additional information about the road closures, and that will be arriving next week. And we'll also be doing a lot of outreach with the neighbors. I'll be walking the neighborhood, talking to businesses, making sure they got all the information, see if they have any issues, make sure they have my contact information. And then also we'll be doing a lot of ride guide, what we call ride guide duty, which means a lot of customer service people, a lot of TriMet folks in the neighborhood during that time between May 6th and 11th, helping people get where they need to go. And so when this is all done, what we're doing is replacing switch and rail equipment. And that means that when we're done, we're going to do some reinforcement of the track bed. And when we do that, there should be less vibration and less noise as the trains come through here. And it'll also make the switching equipment more reliable, so we won't have as many breakdowns or any situations where we may have train delays. So it'll help improve that situation quite a bit. And then when we're done, we'll be putting everything back in place and putting all the cobblestones and all the street pavers back in place. And as I mentioned, we may have to go through May 18th, but hopefully maybe a week earlier than that we can get everything done. So we're keeping our fingers crossed on that one. Yes?
What are the kinds of things that you might run into when you said you haven't been down there in a while? Mm-hmm. What are the, I was just wondering, since you haven't been down there in a while, what are the kinds of things that you might run into?
Some of the things we might run into are degraded utility pieces that are down there, things that actually support our system. The switch itself is something that has to be electronically changed, and so we may run into situations where that equipment may have degraded more than we thought. There's a track bed underneath it that may have to be reinforced, and so we need to kind of take a look at that and see how much it needs to be reinforced. And then also there's other kind of degraded situations that may occur underneath the street. Because light rail are fairly heavy trains, even though they're called light rail, they're still fairly heavy vehicles compared to a streetcar, for instance. So we may need to further reinforce that track bed to make sure that the vibrations don't actually reach the same level that they are now. And so those are the kinds of things that we may run into along the way, just because we don't really know for sure at this level exactly what's down there and what may have changed since we actually built the line in 1998.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the timber schedule. Does this is when they're out of town, and the same thing with the thorns.
That's right. They have a game right before and right after our project. So we're sandwiching ourselves right in between them. Yes.
So the shuttle buses, are they going to run as frequently as the trains or more?
More in the end.
Oh, sorry. Will the temporary shuttle buses that connects to the MAX trains, will they be running as frequently to connect to particularly the airport line? And
more frequently, actually. They'll be running about every 2 to 3 minutes.
And they're just going to do a loop?
Mm-hmm.
Is that?
Yeah, the shuttle bus route is on there, and basically what's going to happen is it will use Taylor to come up here, take a left on 18th, and there'll be a service stop right here next to there's actually a stop right here next to the Mac Club. And then it'll head down to the Goose Hollow, and it'll drop off passengers there who will disembark to go out westbound on the trains, because the train can only come in as far as the Goose Hollow station. And then they will just simply go around the circle, Collins Circle, and then head back in the opposite direction using Salmon to get down to about 18th, I think, or not 18th, but 16th, and then continue on down that way. And actually, I think they're going to, for the ones that are going down as far as going down Salmon, they're going to go a little bit further to 12th, I think, is what it says on the map.
Yeah. It says 10th or something, and then it connects to the red and blue lines.
Correct.
On
Goose
very
on
next
Yam Hill.
block.
Right, continues down, there'll be a shuttle stop right next to the Central Library. And then it'll turn around using 10th Avenue, and it'll come back up Yam Hill. And so you'll notice on that map that there is going to be a closure of Yam Hill and Morrison between 10th and 11th so that vehicles can't get in there. Our concern is safety with that. We just want to make sure nobody tries to get around a shuttle bus and maybe hit somebody in the crosswalk.
Okay, so to connect to from the shuttle to the trains, it's going to be, it looks like on this map, it's like a block or a block and a half to walk, or?
From the trains to, from the library station or from the Galleria station, it's a block. So it's one block.
Do you expect that the screeching as the max goes around the curve will be reduced? Because we get complaints about that constantly.
So you're probably thinking of the curves down here at Goose Hollow. Mm-hmm. We're not really addressing that right now. That is something that, are you still hearing quite a bit of that? Yeah. That's something that we've tried to reduce over the years with various different products to try and kind of, reduce that a little bit. I think actually I'm going to ask about that because I was curious about it and some other people have asked about it as well. So I can certainly get back to you about that.
It's a very consistent complaint we have. If you go digging, you're not going to dig around the roundabout, right? Collins
No,
Circle?
the only construction zone is going to be between Taylor and Yam Hill.
Okay, so when the line was originally constructed, around the Collins Circle, there used to be a turntable for a cable car system. We had the same type of cable car system as San Francisco. Right. That cable car pulley is 11 feet high, 1,600 pounds. It's beautiful work of art, and it's sitting underneath a bridge with Peabot somewhere. So if there are funds for public art or for a way to display this along the path as you are redoing things, it would be just ideal to have it displayed near where the bikes are going in or some kind of way to create that. It's just been languishing. They don't know what to do with it, and it tells a part of Portland history, and I'd be happy to help with telling that cable car history, which is all of the mechanisms are still under our streets. So we could have a cable car system up and running if we just dug down there. So, yeah.
Well, you never know what might happen.
Well, we'll see.
Transportation is all types of transportation.
Right.
So, but let me get in touch base with you afterwards, and I'll give you my card so we can talk more about that.
Okay, I'd love to.
Okay. And so I'm going to bring up Shelley Miller, who is in our capital projects team, and she's going to give you an update on the new bike and ride that's going in there at the Goose Hollow station.
Okay, hi everyone, I'm Shelley Miller, and I am the construction manager for this new Goose Hollow bike and ride that's, you guys have heard a lot about, I think, over the years. Jeff has been here a lot of times, and he says hello. Sent me out here tonight to let you know that construction will be underway. It's underway now, but next Monday is when you will actually see it start to happen. Conway Construction is who won the bid, and they are currently working at the other bike and ride that we're also doing at this time at the Beaverton Creek Station. And it's going really well. We're really excited about this. I hope you guys are too. We look like we'll be done in the middle of June. So it's going to be quick. The access to the station will remain the same. Next week you'll see the construction fences go up and they'll be securing the area. We've been working with the church. The contractor has met with the church. The roses that are out there along the wall right now, we're actually going to put those in buckets and put them under the irrigation system that the church has and then replant them at the end. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
There's one right behind you.
I wonder if you could make it very clear when you put these up that there's no riding of bikes on the sidewalks. People don't seem to know that rule. And it would be nice, I know it's on the little basket they're supposed to be reading or something, but it's not posted anywhere.
Yeah, what I'm familiar with is on the platforms for TriMet, we do have no bikes allowed signs there on the platforms, and that's TriMet's area.
So you can't do the whole city run, huh? Okay, well, thanks.
Yeah, good question.
Anything else?
We're excited to have it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Timbers.
All right. My name is Ken Puckett. I'm the Senior Vice President of Operations for the Portland Timbers, and I've been running that park next door to you guys for 18 years. So thought with our construction going on, it was a good time to come and update you on a few things. I've got Brian here from General Contractor Turner. He can answer any construction questions and give us a quick update. I also brought a map of what that upper concourse is going to look like. Of course, we'll have layers on top of it, but it kind of gives you an idea of the view quarters and whatnot. But a few things I wanted to mention is I know there's been some concerns, and I'll step over here real quick. So, a few concerns about security along this covered sidewalk area. So what we've done with that is, of course, recently, as of November, with the homeless issue and the needles, we're the only building above 405 that hires Clean and Safe. So we have Clean and Safe comes up 5 times a day and is on call 24 hours. There's a reason why our property does not have garbage on it, does not have graffiti on it, and doesn't have homeless on it. We're very active. We have over 95 security cameras in the building. The building is staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even on Christmas. Our new expansion will add about 50 more cameras on that arcade side, and those practices will not change. We'll probably add a few more people to monitor the building, especially in the evenings. We are working with the city right now on their ordinance, and Carl with the city might know what exactly they call the ordinance. But
We haven't named it yet.
We're working on an ordinance that will not allow camping on the property. So we'll be able to have police enforcement to help us move people along from under that arcade and move people along under our plazas on each corner. So that's a big help. Along with that, we've reached out to the Timbers Army, and we do not allow camping anymore. We allow lining up 24 hours before the game. You can bring a lawn chair. You can bring one of those soccer lawn chair domes. You know, I don't know what they call them, but they're single seaters, but that's it. And honestly, we thought that the Army was going to push back on that, but they're 100% on board. They get kind of, how do we sell the homeless not to camp, but yet we allow them to camp.
Right.
So they're 100% on board with that. That's a change we've made this season. We've already had our first home game, obviously, and had no issues whatsoever. People lined up about 24 hours before, again, either standing or sitting only in a lawn chairs. No more tents, no more awnings, no more shelters, anything like that. So that's a big change, and that change will continue, especially with the arcade. We want to make sure we're consistent with all the citizens and kind of on a fair playing field. The last thing before I bring up Brian, I want to talk about is going through the process with Jerry and the Oversight Committee. It dawned on me that some of the questions coming was just to talk about community use and the fact that in the Good Neighbor Agreement, the neighborhood has 3 at-cost community uses of Providence Park. So what that means is you could have something along a farmer's market. You could do whatever you want. We wouldn't charge any upcharge. We wouldn't charge rent on the space. We would just charge our costs. And that's actually in your Good Neighbor Agreement. So I want to make sure I point that out if you guys want to plan. Jerry came to me about the Goose Hollow Days coming up. So maybe that's something we can partner with and move forward with in the future.
So just let me get some clarity on that. So we could have it, once the arcade is finished, we could have it underneath the arcade in a covered area, and that would be where Goose Hollow Days could be held?
100%. My only thing is we work with on our direct costs.
Yeah.
Right, and we can, I can make sure that that's an attainable cost.
Right.
Attainable expense to you guys. We do about 300 outside events a year on top of our soccer games.
Yeah.
That's something that people don't realize. I mean, I always joke with people, our power bill, our electrical bill is $50,000 a month. So we got to pay that bill. So, we do bar mitzvahs, birthday parties, weddings, you name it, we do it. And with the more rental space that we'll have, we'll be increasing that rental. But absolutely, 100%. I think it's a great idea.
So we'll talk more later, but we just need an idea of, because fundraising is incredibly hard, as you know.
Right.
So an idea of what the lowest ballpark you could sort of think about for that.
Well, one thing we could do is the picnic that we do every year is not that successful.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe the funds that I spend on that, when I buy the food and the drink and the tickets for all that, mm-hmm. maybe we convert that into something for Goose Holidays and give you that in a check instead mm-hmm. of doing something. I think 2 years ago we had 5 people show up, your husband and your children and a couple other people.
Right.
So maybe we can use that, because I still had to pay our outside caterer for that food.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something. I budget for that every year. I could just transfer that over to the Goose Holidays and
okay. We'll talk more about that,
okay.
Yes.
Yeah, Mark?
Hey, Ken, did I understand this correctly, that with the new Good Neighbor agreement, or when it is officially approved or whatever, that we're going to be able to have 3 events a year?
It's in your Good Neighbor agreement. I brought it.
Yeah.
Look up the actual.
Well, yeah, you don't need to go that far.
And it's been there since 2001. Let me be perfectly clear. This isn't new. It's been there since 2001. I just think everybody forgot about it.
Okay, I thought we were only allowed to have the picnic every year, but we're actually
No, I give the picnic to you as a gift every year as a good neighbor.
Okay.
That's a present to me, to the Goose Hollow, for tolerating us in the middle of your neighborhood.
Okay.
The community use is something totally different. The community use, it's in our Good Neighbor agreement. You guys get 3 community uses at our cost. So whatever it costs me to put on the event, clean up, a few ushers to let people in, things like that, that's all I need to cover.
Okay.
And so we can work, and then I think that's a great thing.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. So the last thing I wanted to talk about was the email that Jerry shared about the view corridors. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to open 18th Avenue, open for everybody to just come into the park and just walk in up to the railing. I know that's something the neighborhoods wanted, but until we activate this space with some kind of employees there all the time, it's just a security risk. As you can see, there's really no way. But what we do is we block here and here and here, and this view corridor is not interrupted. It's open when our store is open, and that will stay the same. The other thing that I'd like to offer the neighborhood, so you can come tours, we do tours, I'll get back to the mic, so. We do tours all the time for the public. We charge for those. And groups come, schools, children come, people come. We'd be more than happy to extend that to the Goose Hollow neighborhood, give you a link to put on your website to request a tour, and it would be at no charge. So you can come down and take a guided tour with one of our guides, and take a tour with, if you have family coming in town, have a group, and we'll just put that link on your website. You click, send an email, this is when I want to do it, and we'll set it all up, and it'll be at no charge to the neighborhood.
That sounds really great. Are you guys also thinking about maybe moving in food carts or something into that center area as a future plan?
We are. And the problem is that, as you know, in that neighborhood, it's a tough business model. The agency's been not open for how many years? The bitter end closed. We're real skeptical about doing that. I think once Press Blocks opens,
right,
and some of those other areas are activated along with us,
we're going to have
that ability, and we're going to have that willingness to do it. Again, it goes back to, I got to pay the rent to Colorado.
Right.
I got to pay the power bill. So we'll look to do that. But just to leave it open for just people to walk, and again, it's not even in this room I'm worried about, right? But just to leave all these gates open and let the public walk in. There's just too many access points, and for me to gate all that off, it's just not a doable thing.
So what I'm hearing you say is that you are committed to working towards opening that one day and making some money for yourself once there's more pedestrian traffic and more residents in the area that would use the amenities.
100%. I think that's the first offer when this whole process started. But we'll definitely look at that. With our new concessionaire, Levy, they also have that wish to activate that space because they too have large bills to pay. And the more people we can service, the better off, the more activation. I think we've all, as a neighborhood, I used to sit on this board several years ago, but we've all dreamed of this area being activated and being kind of a corridor. And I think with us going in and building this arcade, it's kind of the gateway to that. I think once Press Blocks gets done and all those folks, I think we have a real opportunity here to make this a little bit more of an active, happy street, not just a train that goes by.
But in the meantime, hopefully that happens in the future, but in the meantime, the area that was open by the timber store will continue to be open for people to walk in and look down at the field.
100%.
Yeah.
And you come right up to the railing here. This is 2 tiers, so this is a lower tier. But you come right up to the railing right here, and you get direct views into the park.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
They match the store hours, because that way the store folks can keep track on what kind of behavior is going on in that plaza.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate it.
We struggle with the same thing in the back as being in this neighborhood with the transients and the drug use and things like that. So this just keeps it all under a nice little umbrella for us that we can monitor and make sure we don't have any of that happen.
Is there any way those of us who've been sitting over here can see what you're talking about?
So this is the main level of the park that's being built, Brian's building. This is the new covered sidewalk, kind of, Hippo Hardware up on Burnside, the kind of the covered sidewalk. So this will all be covered sidewalks. The other exciting thing for everybody, I know this is kind of awkward for everybody, but back so everybody can see. The other is that this sidewalk once, at its narrowest point, was 6 feet 4 inches with the parking meters, the light poles, and things like that. Now it's what, Brian, and it's why it is about 11.5. It's 11 clear. Yeah. So now this sidewalk is now 11 feet deep and a clean path. All those catenary poles are being attached to the building. The meters, of course, the parking went away. The 6, 7 spots are here went away, so there's no need for parking meters. So it definitely improves the whole flow up and down 18th Avenue.
Hippo Hardware hasn't been there since 1970.
Hippo Hardware is there. I drove by the other day. Somebody's door knocked.
Yeah, you've got great hearing.
When
I was thinking around, drive up Burnside, you get right over,
just remembering that Hippo Hardware was once on Burnside is feet enough.
I'm not as young as I look, Jerry. You drive over the Burnside Bridge.
I think it used to be
you go up
over
the hill
here.
before you meet with Sandy. All those sidewalks are covered.
Oh, okay.
Right, so it's called the arcade field. So we kind of took that part of Portland's history and decided to make this a covered sidewalk. So it'll be, how tall is it, Brian?
22 feet.
22 feet high, it'll all be lit. We're thinking about putting some planter boxes along there as anti-terrorist, instead of putting the balls that look kind of target-like. We're thinking about putting some heavy-duty planter boxes along there that will serve that purpose, but also add a little bit of light and a little bit of greenery. The other thing that this design is going to really help, because I don't know how many of you go to games or around games, but the crosswalks are here and here and here. Well, TriMet hates what they call the Frogger effect, which people pour out of the stadium and come across the tracks. So with this new design, with this being kind of covered, with us putting some planter boxes and things like that, we hope to control the flow to the sidewalks, making it safer for our fans to get in and out of the game.
What exactly is an arcade?
It's just a covered sidewalk. It's open to the public. This is not inside of the stadium, too. Let's make that clear. This is not inside the stadium. This is public right away. So this is the sidewalk. Our building's just going to go over top of it to cover it at 20 feet high. Okay. Any questions? I got to admit, I'm really nervous talking in front of groups of people, so I did all right.
Doing fine.
Anything to add?
I can give an update if they'd like, whatever.
Would you like a construction?
Yes, please.
Any questions? Do you have a question before?
Well, I didn't have a question. Well, I'll wait till you do your full presentation. It's about the Goose Holidays and the community event trade-off.
Sure.
If I can
Have a cookie.
There you go. I need some
Very
water,
good.
actually, because you make me nervous. Just
Ken, thanks for being a good neighbor. You guys have always worked hard to be a good neighbor, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
Ken.
I'm Brian Sabom, project manager for Turner Construction. So Ken asked me to give you guys a quick update on what the construction looks like. We finished or are in the process of finishing the first phase of construction. We started construction in earnest in November, and with the goal of completing for the Timbers to play their first game in the middle of April, which is accomplished. We're doing a little bit of finish work on the club level that no one can really see right now. A little bit of finish work up on the street level. You guys can see that the gates are in. They still need to be painted, but there's, for all intents and purposes, the first phase of construction as it's permitted is pretty much complete. As it stands right now, our architect, Allied Works Architecture, has submitted the second phase of construction, which is the rest of the building. And it's in with the city for review. The hope is to have a permit by May 14th, actually, May 14th, which will allow us to continue construction during the season. So during the season, what we're trying to accomplish is, you can see columns sticking out of the concourse over there. From that, the intent is during the season to continue building a concrete building while in between games. So we're going to kind of lace in concrete pours and formwork and everything in between games. To do that, we submitted for an occupancy safety plan with the city, which allows us to take sections of the concourse and close those down and allow ingress and egress around the construction zone. Nobody will be passing through construction to allow us to build a vertical structure. And then when the Timbers finish their season, depending on playoffs, take off the existing canopy, put on the new stadia, the precast concrete seating, and then finally we erect the roof or build the roof on the field, put it on top of the building, and then build out the inside of the new levels that we built. So the intent with that being done in the spring of 2019. So that's where we're at. But obviously right now it's a slow spot between now and the May, and then it just ramps right back up. I can answer any questions.
How's Tanner Creek doing?
Tanner Creek is great. So we've been monitoring Tanner Creek around major times of like when we're imposing, or we're not imposing any loads due to the measures we're taking, but when we're doing construction activities near or around Tanner Creek, we run a robot camera down the creek, take a video, ensure that it's fine. And so, yeah,
We're actually required to build a bridge over it to get the heavy equipment across. So that's something Brian has to build, take out, but that's to get the heavy equipment across.
Yep, it's doing fine. The other part is we worked with Jerry and the oversight committee on kind of a construction community outreach program. So we have been sending out updates through the Timbers on their website and through Twitter of major construction activities. It wasn't super exciting in the first phase because everything we were doing was the not exciting stuff, the stuff that supports the building. And now we're going to be doing the things that are more exciting, which is building a vertical structure, and you're going to see a big roof being built. So the intent is to increase that effort with updates more frequently. In addition to, we talked in 2010, there was bi-monthly or quarterly kind of invite the community in to sit on the west side of the stadium, and then I can stand there and point to stuff and tell you what we're building and what is happening. So I think the intent is to do that again moving forward as well. So.
Will it be completely not functional until spring of 2019, or will it be partially functional leading up?
Yeah, so the stadium will function exactly as it functions right now, which is it's fully occupied. The city has the plan that we've created with the city allows for the building to be occupied as its current use, and the work that we're doing within the confines of the stadium is limited, and we've hired consultants to review egress to ensure that everything is working fine. Mm-hmm. So a lot of it is with our occupancy safety plan. It allows the building to be used for its intended use with its intended occupancy through the completion of the season. So until they're done playing soccer, and when they're done playing soccer, that's when we shut it down, build everything, and then when we finish in the spring of 2019, it'll be a fully occupied building in addition to the new load that's coming in, the 4,000 seats and however many fans. So.
You're sitting, Jerry?
But yeah, it's going well.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, I had, can I just ask some follow-up questions about?
The microphone.
Sorry. Microphone. Okay, sorry, I'm new to the board, so I need to just get some more information about the community event. And you said that maybe we could do an exchange of one of the events for the Goose Holidays event that's coming up in September. So what exactly I guess we have to vote on it as a board?
No, we'll have to discuss this later
offline.
Because this is more complicated.
That's what I mean.
Right, we will have
more
to.
Than just
we should discuss this at the next Goose Hollow Days committee meeting.
Jerry did send me an email, so I can't commit some autograph items that you can raffle off. I can't commit that. And a few other things that we have assets. I mean, we have tables, tents, we have a bunch of stuff. So we can work on that. We're more than happy to loan it to you. We loan it to the Timbers Army when they do their street fair over there with a dunk tank. We're trying to get me in that dunk tank for 15 years, but I won't do it. But along with that, autograph, the difficult one of Jerry's asks is players, because they all are in a union and appearances are numbered and limited to the community. So we'll see if we can maybe get some T2 players. That's the team below the Timbers, or maybe some players that are not currently playing on the the DL or the injured reserve. So I'll work on that, but I wouldn't hold my breath to get Tobin Heath over there or Audie. that's probably not going to happen, so.
Are we, can you tell us, like, what is the budget that is
I think
allotted
normally
to the community?
the dinner and whatnot that I spend, I mean, the tickets are obviously free, but that's a lost asset for us. So they're, you're not talking to a ticket guy. He just hands me a stack. I think they're valued about $25 a piece. And
Oh,
we
no,
usually-
I meant the cost of you putting on those events in lieu of, because you said, the money that you would
The picnic,
spend.
that's where I was going. The picnic usually costs me about $3,500 a year
Oh, okay.
to offer the neighborhood.
Got it.
So some of that is lost asset and tickets, and some of it is the food and beverage that I supply for free. So if you wanted to convert that, you guys talk about it later.
Yeah.
If you wanted to convert that and have me write you a check for that,
Yeah, we'll have to.
that works for me.
So we would be
information.
losing a major amenity that we've been offering the neighborhood, whether or not they.
Yeah, I know we have to go
Right.
through
It's up to you all. I
the
mean,
course of discussion, but this is also a community event as well, so.
That's a longer discussion. Yeah.
The one thing I didn't mention, if I can have just a couple more minutes, is the CTMP. So we're working hard on the Certified Traffic Mitigation Plan. So we've got commitments from TriMet. They're coming in writing to add extra trains on the service. They can handle the extra capacity of the people, and they should be producing a letter to me any day now that says they can and they will provide that. We're meeting next the 29th with the Good Sam folks to drive some cars over to that parking lot. They have about 2,000 spaces, right, Jerry, in that parking lot. So we're going to try to work a deal with them that timber fans can park down on 23rd in that lot, maybe get a couple dollars off their parking, and then walk to the game from there through all the businesses and whatnot, and then walk back. We're working with Carl and the rideshare folks to designate some rideshare areas for the Uber, Lyft, taxis, and people like that, so that should help. We're working with Carl on the smart parks to get to take advantage of the smart parks downtown and incentivize fans to park down there. We'll be adding extra bikes. Our average bike is about 300 a game, about 100 for Thorns. So we're going to increase that, percentage-wise to how many people we're adding to make sure we can handle that. We didn't have too many the other day though when it was raining. So.
I know. I noticed that.
Yeah.
They were putting. They were right. They were putting them out, but they weren't being filled. But that was, like you say, the weather.
Right. So we'll have more when that starts to take shape. We've been working hard on some other components of the G&A to get those nailed down, and now we're just totally focused on the CTMP and to get all that satisfied, and we'll get it in front of you through Jerry. So.
Is the discussion about buried parking at Lincoln High School completely dead?
I haven't heard that yet. I think there's talks about it, but I haven't heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean.
We also have plans on buying spaces, pre-buying spaces for the life of our contract with the city, which is 2035, right? With the new press blocks. So we pre-buy those spaces for the life of our contract. That helps them on their ROI to build the building. We pay yearly, and then we get 100 or 200 spaces in there. That'll probably be for employee use and player use.
Right.
We've talked to the Lutheran Church, help me out.
Trinity Episcopal.
They're building a 6 to 7 story parking garage in that empty lot where they have the farmer's market across the street. So we're also in talks with them about pre-buying spaces that we can offer our season ticket holders. Again, that also help them with their construction because we'll make a commitment to buy those until our lease is done with Carl.
Wait a minute, you're talking about this Lutheran church?
No, they're talking about.
Trinity Episcopal.
Episcopal.
Trinity Episcopal.
Side of the.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes,
It's
sir.
where the farmer's market.
Yeah, I thought they were going to build a 7-story parking garage in Goose Hollow.
No, I think they would have been in front of you by then.
Okay.
But no, so we're that good stuff coming on that, and I'll be back to let you know. I can leave business cards with Tracy if any of you want to have them to reach out. If you have any questions, feel free. I mean, like I said, I've been over there 18 years, so just reach out, let me know, and we like to be good neighbors, and we like to take care of our neighborhood. So, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else you guys are you didn't have a presentation or?
It was just here as a resource.
Okay. Okay, thanks. All right, so any other announcements or presentations before we go on into board emails exchanged this month? Anyone want to talk about those? I've been out of pocket, so don't really recall just business stuff about meetings and nothing special.
Scott wants to talk to you about the 8% proposed reduction at Lincoln High School.
Yes.
You want to talk about it? Well, I'm just asking Tracy to talk about it.
So should I do that now on board? I guess, so I don't have all the facts memorized, but Scott is on my husband, Scott Schaefer, is on the Lincoln High School Development Committee, Planning Committee. And Portland Public Schools came to, and he sent this email to the board, so I'm summarizing. Portland Public Schools came to the committee and said, well, we're getting much higher bids back from what we put out there, or what we assumed, and so we're going to have to cut it back. And so they proposed building fewer spaces than our current high school has in it. We currently have over 1,700 students, and they would build for fewer than those students. So Scott looked up the cost of spending per student and found that they were spending a substantially lower amount for Lincoln High School than they were for the other two schools, and that our school is highly subscribed. This is what Portland Public Schools says when they're talking about how many children who live in those feeder neighborhoods go to the public school instead of going to a private school. Lincoln is highly subscribed, and the two other schools, I forget which the two others that are in the Madison and Benson. Madison and Benson are not highly subscribed, and so Portland Public Schools says, well, but if they were highly subscribed, we'd need to build much bigger schools. And so Scott looked at the figures, and he saw that even if they were 100% subscribed, that the schools would be far bigger than what they need, while they're building far smaller than what Lincoln needs. So he's just trying to do a deep dive into the facts and figures to advocate for the kids in our neighborhood who go to public schools, including our children. I have a daughter, we have a daughter in ninth grade at Lincoln right now. So it is, he's our advocate, and he's advocating that they spend an equal amount of money per student, which I think is a great thing to advocate for. Eric.
I was just going to say, I think it was in today's Portland Tribune, that from the previous bond issue that they haven't spent, they're finding that there's also a shortfall there as well. So what impact that may or may not have on Lincoln, Madison, and Benson remains to be seen. So in any event, it's a cluster F at the very least.
For somebody who never served in the military, you sure have colorful language, Eric.
It's my New Yorker.
There you go. Go ahead.
And I agree with the principle of equalization of funds. I lived 14 years in Minnesota, and Minnesota put together what they called in the 60s the Minnesota Miracle, where on the statewide basis, all school districts were equalized. Didn't matter if they were rich neighborhoods or poor neighborhoods or whatever, and that's one of the reasons, and a big reason, why Minnesota is always in the top 3 of rated public schools in the country, whereas we in Oregon are at, 41 or less,
Thank God for Mississippi and
Arkansas and various others. Yeah, I've joked to my kids that they should move, once that Verona is in middle school, they should move back to Minnesota until she graduates from high school.
Oregon's a don't tax me state. We want all the benefits, and we don't want to pay any of the taxes. So that's why. Sorry.
I don't agree with that.
Okay. Oh, well, we'll have that discussion later. Melanie, on Goose Hollow Days.
Okay. Thank you, Tracy. Well, Eric has graciously offered to be the official spokesperson for today's announcement.
Actually, I had a full speech, but I'm just going to wing it.
No swearing.
No swearing. I wait until after the festival for that. We do have some Goose Hollow flyers. The date is Saturday, September 5th. It's going to be from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. And
Eric, it's the 15th.
oh, I'm sorry, on the 15th. I'm dyslexic. And really, we need people to get involved. We have a number of board members involved, but others need to be. We're looking for sponsors, perhaps to host a booth, donate raffle items. The MAC has been very good in helping us out. Just as an example, if living here in the neighborhood, if you go into various businesses, to ask them, are you going to participate in Goose Hollow Days? If you have a good connection with a particular business or resource, and they might have an interest, you can always forward that to the board, and we'll follow up and try to make a contact to get them to participate. As an example, we do have some sponsors at the present time: BMW Portland, Neighbors West Northwest. In the past, we've gotten grants from Neighbors West Northwest to fund it. We're not going to be getting any more after this year, so this has to be hopefully more than just self-sustaining, but where we can make a profit. And hopefully we can leave the kitty full with between $5,000, $8,000, or $10,000 as we go forward. Of course, at that point, I will no longer be treasurer because I would have absconded, but that's another story. So we do have some leads. One that I'm working on as an example right outside of the neighborhood is with Portland 5, or the Portland Center for the Arts, as it's better known. They're actually always looking for volunteers to usher. We're a bordering neighborhood, so it would be perfect for them to come here and, tell us and show us what they do. We're also going to be getting in touch, as an example, with the Oregon Historical Museum. If they want to participate with a booth, great. Perhaps give us some archival material that we can pass out or show, again, with the history of Goose Hollow. And for those of you who may or may not be aware, if you're a Multnomah County resident, you get free admission to the museum. All you have to do is show a license or a bill, and they're also open on Mondays, and I don't get paid for this. So that pretty much is it. Obviously, we believe we'll probably get a fair amount of people to help us on the actual day for setup and obviously for tear down, but we're really looking for support from the community to help us out. If you'd like to try to help us solicit businesses to participate. One of the other things we'll be working on, and we'll hopefully have the paperwork in a month or two, at Fred Meyer you get the bonus points for gasoline. Those can actually be turned over to Goose Hollow Foothills League, and they would give us the money on a quarterly basis. So as I say, if we want to do more than have Goose Hollow Days for, well, we know we're in the second year, so it's not a one and done, but this is really the test to see if we can generate enough income so it could be self-perpetuating. So,
Eric, I didn't understand, you were talking about the getting money from Fred Meyer's or something. I didn't understand what that's about.
When you go to Fred Meyer or with Safeway, you have a Safeway card, and at Fred Meyer's they have a savings card as well. You don't get any discount at the supermarket, but they do have the funds that you would generate to get money off on your gas. When you buy gas, I think it's at Shell, can be turned into cash for a nonprofit. And I think Roger can probably give a better explanation.
Yeah, it's separate from the gas because you'll still get their gas credits. But if you designate it's like designating a charity. If you designate on your rewards card a particular nonprofit organization, that the number of people who shop at Fred Meyer's who do that, they have a community fund and they add it up every quarter. And that money that's generated by people who designate GHFL as their nonprofit of choice will get a certain amount of money every quarter from that. Liz?
I think it's really important to provide that gas part of it from the rest. My husband and I own a car, and we get all those gas points, we can't find anything. I don't know if we give them something.
You can donate.
We can do, but they're...
What's your phone number? You need to punch that in. No, just kidding.
Donate them to the raffle.
You can't donate them.
Oh, you can't? You can't transfer them?
That's what I'm saying. What Eric is saying is the other part. It's completely separate. We've had ours going to street routes for years, but it's so different from the gas thing, which is a great waste for people who don't drive.
Yeah, I never use my gas points either.
And we need to announce the time that the committee meets for all the people in the room who would like to come to that committee meeting.
5:30 on the 3rd.
Okay.
When is it?
Yeah.
This next month?
They are actually published in Allen.
Right. Let's announce it here.
Tuesday, the second Tuesday of every month at 5:30 at the Legends. But thank you, Eric, for your. Oh, sorry. Did I speak ahead of turn? I'm sorry, Mark. Yeah. Go ahead, Mark. I'll speak after you.
I might have missed it. Did we get all set up with Fred Meyer?
No, not at the present time. We have to fill out forms, and then we have to find out how easy or difficult it is to sign people up.
So
We want to make it as
we
easy
can't
as
do it.
No, they have to get a form that's signed by an officer of the corporation, which would be either, in this case, Eric or Michael.
Daniel and then Sherry.
Yeah, just a quick thing. I know that Mark Nicholson at the Hoyt Arbor, who's the curator at the Hoyt Arboretum, with one of the, I think it was with one of the other people in the Oregon Heritage Tree Committee, are definitely willing and enthusiastic to give us an Oregon Heritage Tree tour of Goose Hollow on the weekend of the Goose Hollow Festival, probably in an evening where we would begin and end at the Goose Hollow Inn, is what they're thinking.
All right, Sherry.
Oh, I would want to know, I'm intrigued. I mean, I don't shop at Fred Meyer's, but, there are other things. I get prescriptions at Pharmaca. I'm wondering if there are any other businesses that would be in the works for this other than Fred Meyer's.
I invite you to investigate that.
Okay, so I shop at Pharmaca, so I could go over to the management at Pharmaca, and would you help me with...
Sherry, may I interrupt for a second? Can we just stay on point? Everyone, we haven't finished with the Goose Hollow Days conversation. We can talk about the linking and how we can get donations through various businesses, but maybe we should just finish with Goose Hollow Days first.
I thought Derek was finished. Are you not finished?
Well, he was finished, but I wanted to add the status of where we were with the fundraising. We do need help because our ultimate goal is $10,000 in order to make a really good community event happen, and right now we're only about halfway there. So any help that we can get from the community, because remember, GHFL is hosting it, but it's actually a community event. And so we want a really good community representation on the street, and, on the flyers, they will get some really good, let's just say it's going to be cheap marketing and advertising for them for whatever they can donate, and as far as funds. That's what we need right now is dollars. Thank you.
And if we don't get enough support, I'm going to unleash my inner New Yorker, so just be careful.
Well, it's just not going to happen if we don't get enough support.
All right, the outcome of the view votes. Mark.
Okay, I was asked to give this report at the last month's meeting, but, we wanted to make sure that Sukri got enough time, so we skipped this one. So this is kind of 2-month-old information on the one hand, but on the other hand, a couple things have been resolved since then. So what this is about is the CC 2035 views and, kind of how that turned out. So this was the, what's this, April? This would have been, I guess, like in February. Early March. It was the last public city council testimony where they allowed people to speak. And I know for sure that Sherry and Daniel were there. I can't remember if Steve was there. I think he was at a medical appointment, but he could have been there. I can't remember. There was an officer from the Southwest Hills Residential League Board, And also I testified. And then also Cal and Bill Failing from Swirl also attended partway through the meeting. The key thing, or a couple key things, was that basically Amanda Fritz was the only one that voted in support of our concerns. And basically it didn't really go very well for us. One of the things we were fighting for was actually not even for the Goose Hollow Foothills League, but for the Downtown Neighborhood Association. And we lost the view of Mount Hood from Salmon Springs Fountain. They decided to let the developers and architects take that view away from the public. Also, we lost the view of Mount Adams from Upper Hall, which is up above where Eric lives, and the developers and the architects took that view away. A key point here is that was the only one of two views that were left of Mount Adams, so now there's only one left. The heights were raised on Jefferson to the Vista Bridge. They went from 35 to 45 feet all the way up to 75 feet. So basically the architects and developers won on that one. I would like to say that many of the people on the GHFL board and our fellow neighbors fought hard for these things and for a long time. And basically it kind of reminds me of that famous quote, I believe it was from John Belushi in the movie Animal House. I could have the years wrong, but basically the way I look at it is 7 years of college down the drain.
So we've been working on this since it was the West Quadrant Plan, and I think that we have raised the visibility in the city on ethics issues. We certainly got stronger ethics laws sponsored by Commissioners Fish, Fritz, and Udaly. Not strong enough, but we'll keep pushing. That is because of our work on pointing out very big ethical problems on people sitting on a stakeholder advisory committee and voting to give themselves increased heights on their own properties. So it has been a very strong effort. We've worked very hard, and many years, 3 years of work. I was disappointed to be out of the country and not able to testify, but frankly, I think the deck was stacked. I don't think I was racking my brain trying to think, was there anything I could do? Could I write an op-ed from France to try to get something done? And I don't think I think we turned over every stone, but we don't have PR people and land use attorneys and a $250,000 budget to try to win that. And so it's just us, and we didn't win this one, but we'll win others. And we did win parts of things. And we raised higher profile attention to our historic properties. So we have tangentially gotten things like the historic properties will have more attention paid to them by having a survey done of properties that aren't on the register but are historic. And there is stuff making its way through Planning Bureau right now to have better protection of historic properties. And our work helped to get that. So it isn't always cut and dried, and you can't see your victory or your failure, but I do think that we got some good things. We still have more to work on. Roger.
Yeah, on the subject of views, one thing we thought we won on, but wasn't for us, for our neighborhood specifically, but it was for everyone, was the view from the proposed Forum Apartments in the Pearl. And we thought we were successful on that. Melanie and I both went and testified with the Pearl people. I read a statement from Michael, who had to be out of the country, and we thought we had prevailed, but then City Council had second thoughts. And coming up on the 10th of May will be a hearing, a continuation of an appeal on that. And if any of you are interested, I have the case number so that you can read the whole thing. I got it in the mail today on that project, and we hope that Stan Pinkham and his people at the Pearl at least prevail for themselves and for the rest of Portland, for that matter. Sherry.
Will we be able to testify on May 10th?
Yes, yes.
So the three of us can go in again.
Surely.
And I think the other big thing that we brought attention to during the Central City 2035 process is we did a lot of work proving that our most affordable housing is in our most historic buildings. And we looked at prices in Goose Hollow, prices per square foot for apartment rents. And then we had colleagues looking at that in the West End. And we found in both the West End and in Goose Hollow, the cheapest rent rates per square foot by half are in the most historic buildings. And we were very successful in getting that narrative solidified in the minds of the commissioners. We need to keep saying that over and over again. Okay, Roger, crime issues and community meetings.
Well, this is not really my bailiwick, but I'm the only one. Well, no, actually, Sherry and Mark went to this meeting. Carl also, but he's not here. At the last, not this month, but at the previous month's safety, parking, and transportation meeting, we had a good turnout from people from condos up on the hills, particularly the Park Vista, Claudia Schrechter, who called a meeting of concerned people generally representing condos and apartments to talk about the issues of quite a few recent incidents of crime in Goose Hollow, of break-ins specifically, like the one that happened in the Legends, break-ins in the Park Vista where a car was stolen, small break-in in my own unit, which is an apartment unit, and multiple break-ins in Mark's unit, the Vista St. Clair. Claudia ran a wonderful meeting at her unit in the fireside room, and they talked about matters that they could investigate. One of the most common recommendation was security cameras, which are expensive, but that they needed to have that, and other things like securing the garages where a lot of people were getting in. But it seems to be endemic. They even found that, back to the needles, they even found used needles up on the roofs of these buildings. So someone got in and went up there and got high on the roof of the building. Claudia is going to call another meeting. I won't be here because I leave for the East in early next month, but I will ask her to put the board email on her email list so that you can all get notified, and I would urge any of you who can to come to these, because there are a lot of concerned people in the neighborhood who are thinking about this issue. Anything you all want to add? You were both there.
Just one thing I'd like to say is that I mentioned at the meeting that our building, 2393 Southwest Park Place.
Sorry.
That we've had a couple of break-ins where people have broken into storage lockers. We've had other instances where we've had the mailboxes, I think, Steve, isn't it twice? We've had two separate instances where people have broken into the mail, which is, I think, considered a felony.
It's a federal crime.
It's a federal crime to break into it, and we don't know exactly what they were looking for. But in the condo association, they feel that maybe they were looking for drugs. People get prescription drugs through the mail or whatever. So that's happened twice. And then as I said, they broke into the storage units. How many storage units was it, Steve? About 7 or 8? So it's like no one's been assaulted, thank God, and no one has made it up to individual units in the building. But it is very disconcerting, and we are at the base of Washington Park, and then as you know, there are people that camp out there. There are people that openly shoot up drugs, use the restroom in public without a restroom. I mean, it's disgusting.
Steve.
you did not admit, excuse me, you omitted the case where a woman burglar was caught in shooting at the police and they cordoned off Burnside Road.
Yeah, on King Avenue.
King Avenue.
Yeah.
But all of Burnside was closed too by the police.
Yeah.
Right.
That was a big, and the helicopters came in.
Helicopters at
That was
4
a
o'clock
big
in the
incident.
morning, yes.
And I was at that meeting. They were talking about community patrolling too. People going around in cars as an extension of the police force. And if they saw anything irregular, they would notify the police, who would take the appropriate police action.
All right.
Looking into that.
We've got a lot to keep our eyes on. Approval of minutes, Cal?
Okay, I have a few extra copies. Yep. These are extra copies. You might sort of get them out there or somebody. Thanks.
Extra copies right here.
Okay. Okay, I don't know if there's much to be said, other than I got a fair bit of feedback from the usual suspects.
That would be me.
Mark and Roger, and I think somebody else, Eric maybe. So, are there any questions about the minutes? And I'd like to make a motion to approve them if there are no questions.
We'll wait till discussion, I guess.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Now I have a question.
I might have a question to answer.
Go ahead, Mark.
Did you get most of my recommendations included, Cal?
Looks like it.
Yeah, I think I got pretty well all of them.
Okay, sounds good.
One or two minor things I didn't quite agree with, so I didn't change those.
I want to say they're great minutes. I was amazed at how well he captured the part where Sook re-answered our questions and everybody voiced their concerns, and he did that without our having a video. It was really great.
Well, the video was somewhere, but I didn't see it. I just made it all up, and you seemed to like it. Thank you.
You sounded sincere.
So you want to vote?
All right, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Andy, did you raise your hand?
I'm going to abstain.
I'm abstaining too, since I wasn't here. So 2 abstentions and the rest in favor. Thank you. Treasurer's report, Eric.
Well, we the same place that we were the previous month. I direct that to Mark. Our checking account is $2,021.62. The savings account is $250.14. Grand total is $2,271.76.
Motion to accept that?
I move we accept the report.
Roger and Mark seconds that. All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you. We've already heard from Goose Hollow Days. Anything else, Melanie? Okay. Communications, Mark?
We didn't have a meeting this month, but I go to the NWNW meetings and I listen to what they talk about as far as communications funds, and the leftover communications funds are starting to run out because other neighborhoods are putting in for stuff. So we have a printer request that needs to get in basically yesterday. And that's the one we approved last month. So.
And you and Scott are working on that?
I'm not working on it.
Is Scott supposed to be
looking for somebody?
Yes, I'm looking for a volunteer to submit the one-page application.
Well, that should be someone from the communication, that should be the co-chairs of the communications committee. You shouldn't have to seek a volunteer. So, either Mark or
I don't
Scott.
have the time. I told Mel this last week.
Okay, so let me just add that I will get to it, but it's probably at this point low priority given that I have so many other.
You could also send what you have to Scott and ask him to send it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, parking, we've already heard from Roger, anything else to add on that?
I think we have to probably rethink this committee in the, going down the road here. There was no cancellation that I know of, and Eric and I showed up Tuesday, and, we didn't have a meeting, and I found out at the PBOT meeting that Scott Cohen had planned to come, but he had never heard back, so he didn't. And I told him it was a good thing he didn't, because he would have only been with...
So I've always advocated that this be an every other month meeting. I don't know. Do you want to make it every other month? Is that what you're...
I think we need to talk to the co-chairs about that. I don't have a clue at this point, and I won't be here for the next meeting because I'll be gone.
I'll follow up. Thank you. Jerry, Stadium Oversight?
Okay. Mostly the Stadium Oversight Committee's been involved in transportation and parking issues, getting ready to make a solid recommendation for the CCTMP, the Central City Master Transportation Plan. We have not yet made that recommendation, and we have a small complication in that the at-large representative on the Oversight Committee resigned 2 weeks ago. That's Drew Mahalik, who has closed his business in Goose Hollow, accepted another job, and is gone. So he was a great representative, but we now need to select another one. The way this has worked in the past is that the neighborhoods have recommended an at-large representative. Could be from either neighborhood. Generally, Northwest District Association is deferred to Goose Hollow because the stadium is, after all, in Goose Hollow. We submitted 2 names when Drew was selected. The other name was Scott Schaefer. I assume that we're going to be submitting 2 names again. My own suggestion is that we again recommend Scott, and that we add another name to that list so that we are not appearing to be somehow biased. So I would like to hear from the board here impaneled who you would like to see on that oversight committee.
Are you saying that we should nominate someone also, another person from Goose Hollow, or could it be someone from NWDA?
I don't see a reason to send 2 names. Let's just pick somebody. You're feeling like it gives them a choice to choose from? Is that what?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody have ideas on who should be on this committee for the stadium oversight? I'm sure Scott would be happy to serve. I haven't talked to him about it, but you asked him 2 years ago, right, Jerry?
Yes.
Yeah, so he said yes then, so.
Works for me.
Yep.
We don't have to vote on this, right? No.
Well, do we have to vote?
It's a recommendation from...
We should vote on it if we're making a recommendation.
Yeah.
So does any other board member have a recommendation for serving on this committee? So let's at the least have 1 name ready to roll, and if we have other names.
I recommend Scott, so that's my motion.
I'll second it. That's what I was going to say.
He was about to make a motion. Any other names you'd like to throw out, you guys? Stadium Oversight Committee, mostly dealing at this point with transportation issues.
Does not have to be a member of the board.
Does not have to be a member of the board.
And he isn't, so that's fine.
I wonder what Conrad used to come to the meetings.
Please no.
Is he interested?
No, I don't think so.
Let's talk about that later.
All right, all in favor of Scott Schaefer as at least one of the recommended names, please raise your hand. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. The bylaws, Roger.
Okay, we did not have an April meeting. A March meeting. We couldn't get a quorum. We do have a meeting next week on Wednesday, 7 o'clock at the Legends, and we will be discussing the revision of the boundaries description owing to the official incorporation of Luke's addition into Greater Goose Hollow, the last territorial demand we will have to make in Greater Portland.
For now.
For now, our Panzers are on the 405 boundary.
All right, Mark?
Yes, I know you had a question about this, Tracy, a couple of months ago. Is this official now?
We did get a letter.
We got a letter.
Yes.
We got a letter from Swirl. I wasn't following along closely, so I don't remember if Michael has sent the letter that he needs to send.
Michael did send a letter, and we got a reply from Paul Eisner at ONI saying he was going to follow through and get everything done, but there was no indication that there was any problem. And it's official on our end and on Swirl's end. So it's really a done deal.
It's only controversial if people argue about those boundaries, so it's usually very amicable. Okay, planning and zoning. Jerry?
Thank you. At the April meeting, we discussed the new dwelling proposed on Vista between the Frank House and the McMaster House. I don't remember the address of it. Most of the concern of the committee swirled around the heritage tree that is on the site, and the landscape plan was pretty nonspecific. It did not call out which was the heritage tree, but did call out several trees that they wanted to remove. So I was directed to write a letter voicing our concern about that. I have not heard back from them.
So we'll need to...
I don't think it's one that requires ratification. It's not a board
request?
Yeah, it's simply a request for
Information. Okay, it doesn't require it. Yeah.
Which property, I'm sorry?
It's next to that giant rhododendron, the on Vista that has that giant rhododendron that looks like a tree.
It's actually a magnolia.
Is that a magnolia?
It
wow.
is.
Well, that's the heritage tree.
Yes.
Where's the near?
Okay. It's right across from the Vista St. Clair.
It's right across Vista from the Vista St. Clair. The other cross street is Park.
Mark, hang on, Daniel. Mark, go ahead.
So did you send the letter already, Jerry?
I sent a letter requesting information. I sent a letter requesting information because the plans that we got were so unclear, and the additional plans that they sent me were no more clear.
Okay. So you're saying we don't have to vote on this one?
No.
Okay.
Go ahead, Daniel.
I also took some pictures with my friend and neighbor who's now a GHFL member, Jeff, and I have them on my iPhone. I think I also sent them to my mother, who's on the board, and she can definitely send them. I gave copies of the best pictures I took to my mother, which is a fewer amount because of people's time. So maybe, Mother, you can send those photographs around because we took some really good pictures of that property in the heritage tree.
Yeah, but Daniel, what I would like you to let the board know, because you talked to Martin, that it's the only star magnolia heritage tree in the entire system.
Yeah, that's true.
And the space that they want to build that little house or whatever it is, that the space is so small and they want to cut down trees. I just can't even envision what this is going to look like. And I had discussed this with Sam Galbraith, who used to work with Bud Clark, and he said that they really should not even be approving this.
We wish Bud Clark were making that decision because that would be super helpful, but
Yeah, I would also say is, Mother, would you be able to send those photographs out?
Sure, of course.
And also, I would also say that that property is very much on the within the historic property of the McMaster, and the gardens are definitely historic, and that staircase was definitely a part of the garden plan, and the magnolia, that was probably originally most likely a magnolia yard, and this was some good maintenance, or hiring somebody to maintain it. It can be a very nice open space that's part of the McMaster's estate.
Okay.
The people that came that want to build this were poo-pooing this garden as though it were nothing but a bed of weeds. And Daniel took pictures. It has potential to be absolutely gorgeous, and it is a travesty to see that thing go in our neighborhood. It's heartbreaking, really. What are the cross streets, Sherry?
Anything else in the plan?
It's right in front of the Vista St. Clair. It's Park and Vista. Yeah.
Sherry?
Yes.
The time to have made the argument about the value of the garden actually was over a year ago when they decided to segregate the parcels. And we did make that argument, and we submitted testimony that the garden was important, but now we're on to another issue.
So we can just try to keep that heritage tree standing. That's the fight in front of us.
Okay, well,
Yes.
let's do it.
Yep.
Also, just so you know that that Oregon heritage tree, which is a saucer magnolia, actually part of the heritage tree goes over into the public sidewalk area still.
Okay. Neighbors West Northwest, Roger?
Okay, at the last meeting, they discussed the budget for Neighbors West Northwest. NWNW is one of the 5 nonprofits that are organized to run a coalition. The other 2 among the 7 are city-run. And they're getting a little over $290,000 a year, and we went through that and we approved it. And if anybody wants, it's a public record, so if anybody wants to see that budget, I'll be happy to provide it. But I found it myself strange that in our discussion around it, everybody thinks that they don't get enough money. They being NWNW and NWNW as a coalition is designed to serve the neighborhood associations that are its members. And I don't want to rehash everything we've gone through in the last 3 years and more with NWNW. But one of the things that was said about that was that they had floated a proposal, it didn't come to a vote or anything, that, hey, it would be a great thing if the individual neighborhood associations devoted some of their money to give it to NWNW. And I held myself in, but I finally had to speak against this because I said that we have hardly any money at all, and this is an organization that is funded by our tax dollars to support neighborhood associations, not to take money away from the neighborhood associations. And I think personally they have quite enough funds to do the job they're set out to do. And Eric and I both made a minority report about the only budget to that effect, which I think I forwarded to you all some time ago. So that is a little bit of what went on, and their budget was adopted, and I have no problem with that because it was pretty routine. It's the same budget they have every year. That's all. Any questions?
Okay. Sorry.
Should I include that minority report in minutes?
No, because I forwarded that to you all back in February, I think, right?
Okay, so I'd like to invite Multnomah County Commissioner Sharon Mirren to our meeting to talk about needles and public safety and what Multnomah County can do about that, and especially want Luke to be at that meeting so that she can hear directly from him. Roger, do I need a vote of the board to invite Sharon, or can I just invite her? I'm just inviting her. Okay, the other thing is that with us being down one board member, I've been reaching out to people that have been active over the years. Liz Paris, who was pivotal in creating the first year. She and Carl Rear created the first Goose Hollow Days and between the two of them, they gave thousands of dollars, and they gave tons of their time. They were very quiet about it. They didn't want anyone to know. And I twisted her arm enough to ask her if she would be willing to serve, because I also think we need better gender balance on this board. So she has agreed. I'm not asking you to vote tonight. I'm just kind of planting the seed that this is the way the process works when someone resigns in between elections, is that the board votes for their replacement. So at the next board meeting, I will put this motion in front of the board to ask the board to consider Liz Paris as our next board member.
So could you ask Liz, because I know her really well, so there's not a problem, but I don't know if everybody knows her, to maybe pass out a short blurb about herself?
Yes, great idea. Mm-hmm.
Or she can just give a presentation, that as well. I just want to say about that we do have to have a vote of a majority of the board. That's what the bylaws require. And I just say that because I hope we have enough here next month. I won't be here myself, so,
Can you call in?
We have currently 10 board members, so you need 6 votes to appoint someone.
Yep. Okay, any other business?
Well, I just want to wish everyone a very happy 420 tomorrow.
I got more important business than that nonsense.
Yeah, it might be nonsense to you.
Yeah, it is nonsense. All right. Tomorrow, there are tours, free tours of the USS Portland, the ship that's named after the city. And then the tickets are already given away. They were free, but there's a commissioning ceremony on Saturday. But if you want to see the newest Navy ship named after the city of Portland, you can see it tomorrow. It's down at Swan Island somewhere.
All right.
And don't bring Eric with you.
I was going to ask, I'm going to need a ride because I'll be too high to walk.
Yeah, you ain't allowed.
All right. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much.